I never expected her to remember my name, let alone notice when I stopped smiling. It started in the most ordinary way possible, in my best friend Hamza's house, where I'd been coming since college started. Same metal gate that screeched when you pushed it. Same faded sofa that swallowed you whole. Same smell of cardamom tea drifting from the kitchen no matter the season. And his mother, Aisha Ani. I'd seen her 100 times before that summer. She was just background. Someone moving between rooms, reminding us to eat, asking about exams, disappearing before conversations became real. Then Hamza left for an internship abroad, and somehow I kept coming back. At first, it made sense. His gaming console was still there. My apartment felt too quiet. I told myself I was just keeping the place alive until he returned. But really, I think I didn't want to go home to my own silence. The nights were the worst. My phone would glow with half-written messages I never sent. Friends busy. Group chats muted. I'd scroll, lock the screen, unlock it again, like something important might appear if I waited long enough. One evening, I showed up without texting first. She opened the door herself. "Oh," she said, surprised but not uncomfortable. "Hamza isn't here, you know." "I know," I replied, already feeling stupid. "I was just passing by." She studied me for a second, not suspicious, just curious, then stepped aside. "Come in anyway. Tea's already made." That was the first time we sat together without Hamza between us. The TV played quietly in the background, some drama neither of us watched. She folded laundry on the couch, slow, precise movements. I noticed how carefully she matched socks, smoothing them before stacking them. I don't know why that stayed with me. "You boys disappear once university ends," she said lightly. I laughed. "I didn't disappear. You almost did." There was an accusation in her voice. Just observation. I picked at the edge of a napkin, folding and unfolding it until it became soft at the corners. I didn't know what to do with my hands. Or my eyes. They kept drifting toward hers, then away too quickly. She remembered things about me I didn't remember telling her. "How is your job search going?" "Still looking." "You wanted something in design, right?" I nodded, surprised. Even my own relatives forgot that. Outside, a motorcycle passed, its engine echoing down the street. The house felt unusually quiet after it faded. "You seem tired," she said. Not sad, not lonely, just tired. And somehow that felt more accurate than anything anyone had said to me in months. "I guess I am." She poured more tea into my cup, even though it was still half full. Her hand brushed the rim carefully, steady, practiced. My eyes followed the movement before I caught myself and looked away. We talked about small things, electricity bills, Hamza's terrible cooking abroad, how hot the evenings had become. Nothing important. But I noticed she didn't rush me out. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the gate. "Come by sometimes," she said casually. "The house feels empty." I nodded too quickly. "Yes, sure." Our hands almost touched when she handed me my helmet. Both of us noticed. Both of us pretended we didn't. I rode home thinking about absolutely nothing, and somehow only her. That night, I stared at my phone longer than usual. No messages, no notifications, just my reflection faintly visible on the black screen. Around midnight, it lit up, a new message, from a number I didn't have saved. "Did you reach home safely?" I already knew who it was before opening it. I typed a reply, deleted it, typed again, because suddenly, for the first time in a long while, going back tomorrow didn't feel accidental anymore. I told myself it was just politeness. That's what I called it when I started stopping by twice a week. Then 3 times. Then whenever the evenings felt too long to sit through alone. Her messages stayed simple. "Did you eat? Your friend called today. There's extra biryani if you want some." Nothing inappropriate. Nothing you could point at and say this is wrong. But something had shifted. The next time I visited, she was struggling to fix a loose curtain rod in the living room. A chair stood in the middle of the room, slightly crooked. "You'll fall," I said. She glanced back, amused. "I've survived raising a teenage boy. I think I can handle a curtain." Still, she stepped down and handed me the screwdriver without arguing. I climbed up, pretending confidence while balancing awkwardly. The house smelled faintly of detergent and fried onions. Ordinary smells. Safe smells. Hamza used to fix things, she said behind me. I tightened the screw. He still can. Just from another country. She laughed softly, then went quiet. When I stepped down, she was watching me. Not like an auntie checking on her son's friend, but like she was trying to understand something she hadn't expected. Thank you, she said. It was nothing, but she didn't move away right away. The space between us felt aware. We ended up in the kitchen again, tea between us like always. Steam curled upward, filling pauses neither of us rushed to break. I wasn't always this quiet, she said suddenly. I looked up. My house used to be loud. Guests every weekend. My husband loved people. The way she said husband told me everything before she finished. We separated 3 years ago. She stirred her tea long after the sugar dissolved. No drama, she added with a faint smile. Just two people realizing they were tired of pretending. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't try to fix it. I guess silence gets heavy after a while, I said carefully. She nodded. You understand that. Too well. I thought about my empty apartment. The meals eaten standing up. The conversations I rehearsed but never had. The feeling of existing slightly outside everyone else's lives. Yeah, I admitted. Edo. For a moment, neither of us spoke. A pressure settled in the room. Not uncomfortable, just honest. And then the thought hit me, unwanted but persistent. Hamza trusts me. The realization made my chest tighten. I imagined him laughing beside me, unaware of how often I now noticed his mother's hands when she poured tea, how I waited for her messages, how I stayed longer each visit. I straightened in my chair, suddenly aware of boundaries I hadn't crossed but had definitely approached. You should probably stop letting me come over this much, I said, half joking. She raised an eyebrow. Why? I searched for a safe answer and failed. People might talk. She held my gaze for a second longer than necessary. People always talk, she said quietly. It doesn't mean they understand anything. The clock ticked loudly on the wall. Outside, a stray dog barked somewhere down the street. We sat there, not looking away. When I finally stood to leave, she followed me to the door again. Routine now. Familiar. As I reached for my helmet, she noticed a loose thread on my sleeve. Wait, she said. Without thinking, she reached forward and brushed it away. Her fingers lingered just a second too long against my arm. Neither of us moved. Neither of us commented. She smiled, small, almost private, then stepped back as if nothing had happened. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. After that night, I tried to slow things down. I told myself I'd visit less. Keep it normal. Go back to being just Hamza's friend, someone who dropped by occasionally, drank tea, left before it meant anything. It worked for exactly 4 days. Then she sent a photo, just a picture of the sunset from the balcony. Orange light spilling over neighboring rooftops. Looks nice today, the message said. Nothing else. I stared at it longer than I should have. Typed yeah. Deleted it. Typed beautiful view. Deleted again. Finally, you always notice these things. Her reply came quickly. I didn't used to. I didn't ask what changed. I went over that evening anyway. The house felt different the moment I stepped inside. Quieter than usual. The television off. Windows open. Wind moving the curtains I'd fixed. She was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, cutting fruit. You came, she said, almost surprised. Yeah. I stood there longer than necessary, unsure whether to sit or help. Eventually, I reached for a plate. I can do that, I said. She handed me the knife without argument. Our fingers brushed again, brief, familiar now, but this time she pulled her hand back first. A small withdrawal, easy to miss. But I noticed. We worked side by side in silence. The kind that wasn't empty anymore. Just careful. You've been busy, she said after a while. I thought maybe I was coming here too much. The words slipped out before I could soften them. She paused mid-cut. Did someone say something? No, just me. She nodded slowly, eyes lowering to the counter. That's probably wise. Wise. The word landed heavier than I expected. Something tightened in my chest. I focused on slicing apples evenly, pretending precision mattered. Of course it was wise. She was my friend's mother. Older. Recently separated. Someone people respected. And me, still figuring out my life, still pretending I wasn't lonely enough to mistake kindness for something deeper. We carried the plates to the living room. Halfway through eating, the front gate opened loudly. Both of us froze. Voices outside. Male laughter. A neighbor stopping by, calling her name. She stood immediately, smoothing her hair, adjusting her expression into something more formal. I suddenly felt out of place, like I'd wandered into a scene not meant for me. She spoke to the neighbor at the doorway while I waited inside, invisible but painfully aware of how this must look, a young man sitting alone in her living room at night. I heard the neighbor ask, casually, "Hamza back?" "No," she replied. "Just his friend visiting. Just his friend." The words were correct. Necessary. Still, something inside me pulled back. When she returned, the air between us had shifted. Careful again. Measured. "I should go," I said quickly. "You don't have to." But she didn't sound certain. We walked to the gate together. The streetlight flickered above us, throwing soft shadows across her face. For a moment, neither of us moved. She looked tired. Not physically, emotionally. Like she was standing at the edge of a decision she didn't want to make. "You're a good boy," she said gently. The sentence stung more than it should have. I laughed awkwardly. That sounded like a warning. Maybe it was. She met my eyes then, really met them, and something unspoken passed between us. Recognition. Want. Fear. Her hand lifted slightly, as if she might touch my face. Mine moved too, without permission, without planning. We stopped inches apart, close enough to feel her breath, close enough that stepping forward would change everything. Neither of us moved. A car passed. Headlights washed over us. And just like that, the moment broke. She stepped back first. "Good night," she said softly. I nodded, unable to trust my voice, wondering the entire ride home whether we had just protected something or lost it before it even began. I stopped going for a while. Not completely. Just enough to convince myself I still had control. Work became my excuse. Late shifts, extra projects, even evenings spent wandering aimlessly just so I wouldn't pass her street by accident. I told myself distance would reset things, return us to something safer. But absence doesn't quiet feeling. It sharpens it. After 10 days, she messaged, "Are you all right? Haven't seen you." Simple words. No accusation. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. "Yeah, just busy." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, came back again. "Come by tomorrow." I made too much food. I knew I shouldn't go. I went anyway. The electricity was out when I arrived. The house sat in soft darkness, lit only by candlelight and the faint glow from neighboring homes. The gate creaked louder than usual. She was sitting outside on a small bench near the garden, a shawl wrapped loosely around her shoulders. "You picked a dramatic night," I joked, trying to sound normal. She smiled faintly. "The power left before you did." "You sat beside her." Not too close. Not far enough. Crickets filled the silence. Somewhere, someone played music softly from another house. The world felt slowed down, like it was waiting for something neither of us named. "You disappeared," she said. Not angry, just tired. I thought maybe I admitted. "Why?" The question landed gently, but pressed deeper than anything she'd asked before. I watched my hands instead of her face, fingers rubbing together, searching for words that wouldn't betray too much, because it started feeling important. She didn't respond immediately. The pause stretched. Important meant dangerous. Important meant noticeable. Important meant I was thinking about her when I woke up, when I ate, when I tried not to message first. "I didn't want to make things complicated for you," I added quietly. She exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the dark street ahead. "They were already complicated," she said. The honesty surprised me. A breeze moved her hair across her cheek. Without thinking, I reached out and brushed it back. My hand lingered near her face longer than necessary. This time she didn't move away. Her eyes softened, not surprised anymore, not cautious. Just open. "I waited for you," she said, almost laughing at herself. Every evening, I kept telling myself it was silly. Something tightened painfully in my chest. "I try not to come," I said. "Why?" "Because I wanted you too much. Because Hamza trusted me. Because people would never understand. Because I didn't understand myself. I don't know what you want from me." I finally admitted. The words felt raw the moment they left my mouth. She looked down at her hands, fingers intertwined tightly, as if holding herself together. I don't know either, she whispered. I just know. I feel less alone when you're here. The confession settled between us, fragile and undeniable. Silence followed, heavy, intimate. Our shoulders touched now. Neither of us corrected it. Her hand shifted slightly on the bench. Mine moved closer, almost touching, waiting. I could hear my own heartbeat louder than the distant music. She turned toward me slowly. Close, closer than we'd ever allowed. Her eyes searched mine, not asking permission exactly, but asking something deeper, something irreversible. My breath caught. Her lips parted like she might say my name, or do something neither of us could take back. And in that suspended moment, balance between restraint and surrender, one question hung silently between us. If we crossed this line, who would we become afterward? She stood up before anything could happen. Not abruptly, not dramatically, just stood. The space between us disappeared and returned at the same time. I should check the candles, she said, though none needed checking. You understood. We both pretended the moment had simply passed on its own. Inside, she moved differently, careful, measured, avoiding stillness. She adjusted plates that were already aligned, wiped a clean counter, asked whether I wanted tea, even though neither of us would drink it. I waited for her to come back to the bench. She didn't, so I left earlier than usual. Good night, she said from the doorway, polite again. Familiar. Safe. Not once did our hands almost touch. The next day, no message came. Then another day passed. I told myself she was busy, maybe embarrassed, maybe relieved. By the fourth evening, curiosity started to feel like rejection. I almost went over anyway. I even rode halfway down her street before turning back, annoyed at myself for expecting something undefined. A week passed. Nothing. The silence felt deliberate. I replayed that night constantly. The way she'd looked at me, the closeness, the unfinished question hanging between us. Had I imagined it? Misread loneliness as connection. My routines returned, but they fell hollow now. Dinner eaten while scrolling aimlessly. Messages typed and erased. I opened our chat more times than I wanted to admit. Her last text still sat there. Come by tomorrow. I never deleted it. One evening, Hamza called. Loud background noise. Airport announcements. Bro, I might come back earlier, he said excitedly. Things changed. I forced enthusiasm into my voice. That's great. Yeah. Mom sounded weird lately, though. Said she's been busy meeting people. Maybe thinking about moving or something. My stomach tightened. Meeting people. Yeah. Some family friend introduced her someone. Good for her, honestly. She needs company. I said something supportive. I don't remember what. After the call ended, the room felt smaller. Of course. Of course her life continued beyond me. Beyond late-night tea and unfinished conversations. She was rebuilding something real while I had been standing inside a moment that never officially existed. Still, confusion lingered. Why pull away without a word? Why look at me like that if it meant nothing? 2 nights later, I passed her house accidentally on my way back from work. Lights were on upstairs. Voices inside. Laughter. Unfamiliar male. I slowed my bike without meaning to. The gate stood closed. I imagined knocking. Imagined her opening the door, surprised, maybe relieved, maybe uncomfortable. Imagined explaining feelings I didn't fully understand myself. My hand hovered near the brake. Then I kept driving. At home, I opened our chat window. Typed. Did I do something wrong? Deleted it. Typed again. I miss talking to you. Deleted that too. The blinking cursor waited patiently, like it expected courage I didn't have. Eventually, I locked my phone and placed it face down beside me. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused, like life forgot to finish the sentence. I didn't plan to go back. That's what I told myself. But some habits don't end. They just wait until you're tired enough to stop resisting them. It was late afternoon when I finally turned into her street again. No dramatic reason. No saden ruelesaschen. Just a long day, an emptier evening than usual, and a feeling that unfinished things shouldn't stay unfinished forever. The gate looked exactly the same. For a moment, I stood outside like a stranger deciding whether he belonged there at all. Then I knocked. Footsteps approached slowly. When she opened the door, surprise crossed her face first, then something softer. Relief, maybe, or worry. "You came," she said quietly. "Yeah." Neither of us moved aside immediately. The air between us felt honest again, stripped of assumptions. She stepped back. "Come." The house was calm. No visitors. No unfamiliar voices. Just the hum of a ceiling fan and sunlight stretching across the floor. The kitchen smelled like ginger tea. Of course it did. She poured 2 cups without asking. Her movements were slower than before, like she had rehearsed this meeting in her head and still wasn't sure how it would go. We sat across from each other at the small table. For a while, we talked about ordinary things. Work, Hamza possibly returning, the weather turning warmer. Safe topics. Neutral ground. But silence kept returning, heavier each time. Finally, I said it. "You stopped talking to me." She didn't deny it. "Yes." The honesty caught me off guard. "Why?" She wrapped her hands around her cup, eyes fixed on the rising steam. "Because I realized I was waiting for you too much." She swallowed before continuing. "And that scared me." I nodded slowly, feeling something inside me settle instead of break. "I thought I crossed the line," I admitted, or imagined something that wasn't there. She shook her head immediately. "No, that's not it." Her voice softened. "I liked how you looked at me. I liked feeling noticed again." She smiled faintly, almost embarrassed. But liking something doesn't always mean we should keep it. The words hurt, not sharply, but deeply true. I stared at the table, tracing a small crack in the wood with my finger. "I didn't want to make things harder for you," I said. "Or for Hamza. Or for myself." She nodded. "I know." The room grew quiet again, but this silence felt different. Less tense, more final. "I met someone," she added gently. "Nothing serious yet. Just try to move forward." I felt the sting, but alongside it came an unexpected clarity. Not loss exactly, more like understanding arriving late. "I'm glad," I said, and meant it. She studied my face carefully, as if checking whether I was pretending. "You'll be okay?" she asked. I smiled a little. "I think I already am." For the first time, neither of us avoided the truth of what had existed between us. It wasn't denied. It just wasn't claimed. When I stood to leave, she walked me to the door again. Same ritual, same quiet steps. Outside, the evening light softened everything. She reached out and adjusted my collar absent-mindedly, the way she used to fix small things without asking. Her hand rested briefly on my shoulder. Warm, steady, human. "Take care of yourself," she said. I nodded. "Okay." And this time, the word felt complete. Time didn't rush after that evening. It simply continued. Hamza returned home 2 months later, loud and sunburned and exactly the same as always. We met again like nothing had changed. Late-night gaming, bad jokes, unfinished arguments about football teams. I visited his house again, too, but differently. Now I came when he was there. Sat in the same living room where everything had quietly begun, laughing at stories I'd already heard, pretending I didn't notice how familiar the space still felt. She greeted me warmly each time. Never distant, never overly careful, just balanced. Sometimes she asked about work while passing through the room. Sometimes she left tea on the table without interrupting our conversation. Small kindnesses returned to their rightful shape. The first time our eyes met across the kitchen doorway after Hamza came back, we both smiled. The kind share between people who remember something private but don't need to revisit it. Nothing awkward, nothing unfinished, just understood. Life shifted in subtle ways after that. I stopped waiting for messages at midnight. My apartment felt less like a place I escaped from and more like somewhere I actually lived. I cooked more, went out more, even started saying yes when people invited me places instead of pretending I was busy. Loneliness didn't disappear. It just stopped being the center of everything. One morning, months later, I ran into her at a small bakery near my office. 8:47 a.m., according to the clock behind the counter, a time oddly specific enough to stay with me. She stood ahead of me in line, ordering tea. When she turned and saw me, her face lit up with easy surprise. "You're awake this early," she teased. "Trying to become responsible," I said. She laughed, the same quiet laugh I remembered from candlelit evenings and long pauses. We sat together for a few minutes by the window. Morning traffic moving outside, cups warming our hands. She told me she'd started volunteering at a local school, so the house didn't feel as heavy anymore. I told her about my new project at work, how things finally felt like they were moving somewhere. Nothing romantic passed between us, and yet nothing felt missing. When we stood to leave, there was a small hesitation, not tension, just acknowledgement. She adjusted my sleeve automatically, brushing away lint that wasn't really there. Some habits remained gentle instead of dangerous. "Take care," she said. "You too." We walked in opposite directions. I didn't look back immediately. When I finally did, she was already blending into the morning crowd, carrying her tea carefully with both hands, the same way she always had. And I realized something then. What we had wasn't a mistake or an almost love. It was a season, a quiet crossing of two lonely lives that gave both of us enough warmth to continue forward, separately, but changed. Some connections aren't meant to last forever. They're meant to teach you that you're still capable of feeling, still capable of being seen. And sometimes that's enough. Did this story stay with you? What kind of quiet, real love stories do you want to hear next?